it was critical how we never had correlation allowed regarding Mao Zedong's and our founders shared entrenched before their births enemy, which was internation. In other words, everyone was victim tools of it. Areas maintained, then inter-sciences maintained, criminally foreign influence, then inter-industries maintained, as the phenomenon of value nature systems tactically ulterior from the value nature system that is real always, inherently, actively, and progressively, simultaneously further positive or negative value nature relationship to itself, progressively, as a progressively valuable relationship being more positive value nature here. But this is per system where we are one body, finite, grouped or sex, in a species in demonstration of this. Overall nature will never have criminally legalized criminal foreign influences as nature in relationship to itself, as value, as fact treatment nature. So in other words, Mao Zedong, 1860s around, before that, leading up to this, they were in a trap. What was internation facilitated, entrenched in America since before the birth of America's founders. Now this is obfuscated right through our schools, recorded, shared internation, with and as identities, as victim predators raised by this. And that because this knew that it was going to keep lie, progression, cover up natures and styles. It's fluent through all as reliant upon fake differences, reliant upon what wars and what maintained them in relationship to industry's positions, not simultaneously distinguished, and this having it discerned, and worse than that, not letting it discerned. In 1860 to 1865 is roughly the time of the Civil War in America, regarding what was still with slavery entrenched in the North, but they were moving to as retreat natures, still, like Mao Zedong had to retreat, because everyone was born in a trap with laws and database relationships where everyone was a fact treatment nature slave. No one had free voice, free speech, and the extent of it was blocked because now you're dealing with mass opinion natures from as the value of areas and states in collusion, maintained the collusion order before, then as the value of all finite body of value and top-down treatments in areas and states in collusion with other nations. Only let realize nature of treatments of leaders' voices, our needs to point out, they're dealing with a value nature system forced, value nature systems forced, juxtaposed, and claimed, justified by fact treatment nature that can't, in other words, regarding criminality of descriptions of Mao and or descriptions of our founding fathers. One thing is true with both sides could agree because it's recorded it true always, is that already entrenched before their births was internation, sophistication through sciences that were criminally re-engineered. Not by accident, no one had the fact treatment nature integrity to demonstrate how the Yin Yang is painting three values as nature, simultaneously painting five values as nature. Note how the fifth pillar of the Quran is about charity. This is into the value of our, and as the value of our progression in a conversation and with need in regarding to needs to react to unnatural before the criminally influenced sciences in Campus Marcius that came before Jesus Christ, before the modern religions about this. What about Indian religions? If you understand what the science, what the religions are and science are about with science of ratiocination, of our nature's relationship to itself, alphabet value. Then you understand, you know, our fact treatment nature. In other words, in relationship to, they say they could, the autocrats and things like this. Let me because, well, 1 second. Okay, well, yeah. So, Mao Zedong, and this is related to the Olympics. We have to change we have to understand this, because we can make, this is how you make evolution, which revolutions contain retreats because of the fact that not for money. This was an organized crime that came before modern nations to perpetually play our fact treatment nature in relationship to the databases, relationship to the sciences, areas maintained, and then inter-science maintained, and then inter-industry maintained, and then inter-branch. Everyone reactions to live progressions, offensively needing to cover that, and from themselves all to positions taken like suit and tie, fake counters to suit and tie. No one had free speech. That's one truth. Always, that's recorded because of the omega nature, which is the mass nature of opinions, criminally foreign influence. How are you going to make the right opinions when you came through their sciences? Recorded criminally foreign influence. Now, uncovering historians and biographers differ. This is from the book Mao Zedong biography, A&E. This talks about how they don't like people talking about Mao Zedong. It's a different relationship to the same organized crime that's not letting our founders talked about right. It's recorded. If has insidiously fake sides, because his relationship to a crime method tied to terrorism, because terrorism is multi-front, with one of many means facilitated to keep selling overt internation criminal enterprises, and problems are thematic to areas within as relationships to it with mental health care. And with their recorded physical delusions, recorded shared policing here, shared doctor relationships to industries, value systems before being criminal by money, being criminal by fact treatment nature, recorded criminal databases relationships that have recorded effects to areas, and which these maintained needed needed investigations manifest constantly are demonstrated. There's the maintenance of hurt victim predator reaction roles as fact treatment nature, as a breaching method, self-cultivated, self-maintained, blamed on others. Every modern nation blaming on others. What can't then simultaneously defend itself from a criminal insidiousness nature where the target is not money, it's something physical. It was our reaction to fact treatments and to each other as the shared nature that will only be positive or negative value. The perfect value progression of the identity of the nature we share. Allah's name was used to teach this by a science. Until we understand the science, the identity the sciences share, Jesus Christ's name was revealed to teach this. Same thing, the Trinity. Three values is nature. Same thing painted by the Yin Yang. Simultaneously, same thing, 5 values as nature, painted by the metaphor of the Yin Yang. Like a transverse section of semi-nature, temporary nature, temporary lasting natures, expanding value in relationship to a nature of volume that comes before temporary space nature, inherent volume. But that is bonded by the identity of space. A lot. This is English was revealed to teach us by nature of internation sciences before their criminal re-engineering, and then justifications of that, and what knew that it could maintain justifications of that perpetually, not realizing that they're going to be, that nature is going to cause them to need to cover up lie progressions in relationship to databases. Formal, criminally legalized through Marcus positions foreshared with and as everyone as fake identities, and where and as and how. Space is a fact treatment nature, conversation, value nature, relationship that is using, wants us to understand and speak as value progressively, more and more, as fact treatment nature, as identity as progressing, as progression's relationship to itself that is positive or negative. The phenomenon of the identity of space is simultaneously, distinctly and non-distinctly in demonstration to us because of the size of itself in relationship to our distinct, closer relationship to the nature of volume that won't mix with temporary space nature. In relationship to the complete identity of space that science demonstrates is simultaneously as finite value, active value, and overall value. And its relationship to itself is the cause to positive or to negative value nature progressions, being evolution and being more forever nature made that way, and as manifest through here, or as the phenomenon of Lethe of Hades, which the value of the bottom of the Z is to teach in A through Z. We are life left to right, and then is simultaneously the identity of space greater than all temporary space nature, the bond which connects that with and as the complete nature of it to the extent will connect here. Why we have choices? Because we're progressive values, a perfect progression's relationship to itself, but we could make those choices especially which is forced, because we're value as a species together too, not for unity itself, because there's three natures of unity, so that could be negative value nature too, because it's the relationship that the Trinity has to itself, per the value that is in demonstration to itself as the identity that each cell shares, as the wall, as the body of value we are. Not just onto our physical body, why we have a sexes, group, or in the group, and then we have top down, the species body, bond, because one identity is bonded onto all parts of space, before, then as all finite, then as all active, and as all progressive values, sometimes even through our bodies it's coming, not just through our bodies, but through our nature. And with as a complete nature that fills in more here, as forever nature made more here, with no criminal legalized persuasions especially, or forced from here, Lethe of Hades. And then as the phenomena of negative value natures to make more positive value nature somewhere else. Because negative value nature, in other words, temporary positive nature is still positive. Negative value nature is still temporary positive. The difference between that is the only time physics has value is by the identity, which is space oriented. English is revealed to teach about space nature. Every part of English, every subpart, finite, every part of it is revealed to teach about space nature. And this is about with the value of because English is a body of value, but in the relationship that this value nature has to itself through bodies, in relationship to quality of diffusion that is perfect or not, as positive or negative, which is this temporary plus plus plus, which is further. It has to be a plus 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 onto itself, onto every individual, everybody, and if we're doing that, that's a nature. That's a fact treatment nature. That's a science nature that reveals evolution. So we have behavior recorded with criminally foreign influence internation, specifically for what color was used with the law. That was our founders, America's founders. I'm not speaking for Mao, but the trap speaks for it. It was recorded against everyone. No one wants to kill people, and no one wants to join with someone's gun. How did Mao? He had to back up. Then he'd come forward, and they forge an identity, which was still contained forward, because now nations are forced with justifications of fact nature, of a value nature system that's not trying to cause evolution, and it's doing worse. All victim predator roles, and making that as fact treatment nature incapable of defending all that in ourselves on too many all fronts, not by accident. This organized crime method, the devil told right, because we have to explain criminal reengineering of the campus Marcius, and of our treatments of each of the sciences per rackets that areas maintain that knowing to, these are not our means. We have a tactically denatured relationship to nature that we can't counter while as a progression forced by the only system that's not going to change. In the value of the campus as a correlation nature that is looking for evolution, that is also positive using real life, using where water really is. Evolution, trying to make the garden everywhere, where it's not admitted. We have forsaken, worse than ever, people that never had legal representation, other claims, because everyone's awes. Everyone's triggered. What does that mean? Shock and awe. That, in other words, our victim-predator reaction, because the Trade Center, what's that? America, the people who had the fact treatment nature slavery of our founders, it was already entrenched here, internation, forcing England to be the face of it in the North. But why would they be for slavery and all this stuff? They had slavery entrenched here in the North, right up to the last bit of they had a battle of the Revolutionary War. They have that roles with everyone realized as you came through a criminally re-engineered sciences. And think about what would make courts put color in it with the law. That's very sick. Sicker than witch trials. And there were laws sicker than that. But we don't have them understood. Because we have passions that are used as a breaching weapon to maintain breaching natures and roles, but for other juxtaposed motivations. That's where the money of motivations and things come into it. Because that's just where people share grouped and individual roles, blaming on others, what was designed to keep breaching roles like that. Because it knew that justifications of criminally re-engineered already revealed value to the perfect value progression that doesn't stop. We keep demonstrating negative value nature progressions, Lethe of Hades, lie progressions, all that value, one value, nature's system's relationship to itself. See pseudo-ratiocination, R-A-T-I-O-C-I-N-A-T-I-O-N, and ratiocination. Pseudo-ratiocination. See the difference between, use that to discern the shared value-nature relationship and lesson, just like the Yin Yang with the relationship that the predicate has in English and the predicate act has with the law, because the sciences share an identity. A predicate act is made by a person who's going to have a negative relationship to himself, inherently, actively, progressively, because they're getting over on areas. Needs per. This is where we are retreats and forced to reactions per whatever. In other words, we don't let correlation demonstrate the fact treatment hostage, nature hostage, and or worse than that of Mao Zedong didn't have free speech. How could they have free speech when everyone's forced through criminally foreign influenced sciences? Opinion nature is incapable of defending, needed reactions. In other words, that's why they hurt every nation. That's why they help, pseudo-help. In other words, they say money is they made identities reliant upon contrast instead of reliant upon the nature of the law, correlation. We have people without means. It has nothing to do with money. Means the money system failed them. So it should be reliefs. You know what I'm saying? We have a relationship to nature that was built by forced slavery laws against our founders that was entrenched here with a system before they were born. Internation had they were building a tactically denatured relationship to nature and to space and to each other through the value nature system that would cause negative value nature progressions that they knew that they could perpetually maintain self blamed on other and on others, not realizing areas facilitated with and as a breaching trap, a machine making criminal insidiousness natures, which people are when as victim predators through schools don't understand the fact treatment nature slavery of our founding father James Madison in conjunction with George Washington, in conjunction with and as a retreat, as a forward, contained, still incapable of fact treatment nature, free speech, and still